So what is social class? By definition, social class is a division in society based on social and economic status. So what do we do to recognize these social classes? Well, technically, it's a grouping of individuals that are usually based off of wealth, the education attainment, occupation, income, and or memberships of some sort of subculture or social network. Examples of recognizing social class in the real world would be seeing someone walk out of the new state capitol versus someone who's walking on the east side of Springfield. The reason why I pulled this one up is because generally seeing someone walk out of the new state capitol, especially during prime time of politics, they're generally wearing suits. Well, suits are pretty expensive, and to get those expensive suits, you need money. And how do you get money? You get a job, and typically these people have good jobs, good paying jobs to get very nice, expensive suits. Versus someone who is walking through the east side of Springfield, we generally automatically assume they live in this neighborhood. And because it's more of a neighborhood on the poverty line, we automatically just group them into that, automatically thinking, oh, they're lower class. Another example would be seeing someone walk down a busy road going to work versus seeing someone drive down that busy road going to work. Having your own method of transportation immediately just throws that person into a higher class versus the person who's walking down the street, because cars are expensive. Cars are considered a luxury item. You need the money to have gas, to do the maintenance on them. You need to pay the money to get your license, to have insurance on your car. And let's see, you have to get the stickers for the car too, that cost money, your license renewals, license plate renewals, stuff like that. So a car itself is a luxury item. So not everyone can attain that. And seeing someone walk down the street because they can't afford the car automatically just in your head dumbs them down to a lower class. So there has been about 5 to 6 social classes that was created in America. I will tell you about the 5, starting with the number 1, which would be the upper class. The upper class is your elitist, your 1% that we have been hearing everywhere in the media. These are your leaders, the heads of corporations, big high honcho politicians. The wealth they received has been from the things that they own and what they've put their money into. In the upper class, there is 2 different subcategories. You have the upper class with the new money, or which is putting it in stocks and receiving all this other stuff, versus the old money, which is just wealth being given from generation to generation to generation. The next class would be the upper middle class. These are your engineers, your lawyers, your architects, your doctors. These people have very high incomes and usually have a very high social prestige. These individuals are very well educated. Most of them don't stop at bachelor's or just master's. They go on to doctorates of some sort. And then you have your lower middle class. These are your paralegals, your bank tellers, your salespeople. This ranges from clerical work to administrative, like managing stuff. This also can include your blue-collar workers that have some specific skilled trade that they can offer that they make good money doing. The next class under that will definitely be your working class. So your working class is basically people who work but don't make a lot of money. Your craft workers, your laborers, your restaurant workers, repair shops, delivery services. I'm a hairstylist, so I would more than likely fall under this category of working class. And then the very last one would definitely be your lower class or your underclass, the poor, people who live in poverty. These people generally rely on social services such as like food stamps, or they have to go to like a bread line for food, stuff like that. There is also in that is like the working poor. So these are people who work full time, but their wages are still below the poverty line and can't provide much for their family. So how do these people maintain this social class? Well, those who maintain their social class simply just stay within their class. They socialize within their class, and a lot of them rarely branch out to other classes. You don't see a lot of 1% hanging out with a person who's in the lower class. They maintain the jobs that they have to receive the income that helps them stay within that social class. So the doctors aren't going to one day say, hey, I'm done being a doctor, I want to be a server. That's not going to happen. I mean, it could, but definitely would not be likely to happen. And then those who are in the lower class, usually they stay within their class because just moving up isn't that simple. It takes a lot of time and can take a lot of money, and some of those individuals don't have either one of those, especially to receive the proper education to help shoot them in the right direction to get that better job or whatever the case may be. So for them, it's simply just easier for them to stay within their original class than to even attempt to mobilize to a different one. One of the stories that really stuck out to me was Tammy's story. I believe her story and the social class that she lived in truly affected her everyday life. Tammy was a single mother. She was raising 2 boys. At the time in 1999, she lived in a really rundown trailer. She was working at Burger King. She was making $7.80 an hour. She had to walk to work 2 miles every day. She didn't have a car. In the video, she expressed how she would love to go back to school and become a school teacher. She said this was her dream ever since she was a kid. However, she also expressed how she didn't have the money to even fix her car or to even get new tires. She didn't even have a license. So during the video, her oldest son expressed how after high school he was going to college. He was either doing a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree. And he was going to better his life. He wanted to get out of this lower class, working class, social class that he was growing up in and wanted to be somewhere even in the middle was fine with him. So let's fast forward to 14 years later. Tammy's situation barely changed. Instead of living in an old trailer, she lived in a really small rundown house. Still didn't have a car, but her commute now was 20 minutes, so that's good for her. She is still working at Burger King, and she is still making $7.80. Tammy's oldest son ended up never going to college. He actually never finished high school. Her youngest son at the time was 2 years unemployed. And even though it was never said in the video, it did appear while watching the video that him and his girlfriend or wife and child was living with his mom. I really believe depending on the social class you begin at can either make or break where you end up. It's absolutely possible to grow up in lower class and end up in the upper middle class, but it takes hard work and dedication. And in Tammy's situation, she explained how her family was poor growing up for her, and although Tammy could have had these situations to help improve her social class, for whatever reason, it just never happened. So later in life, Tammy's sons, they had opportunities to move up in social classes as well, but one of her sons even sounded like he was moving in that direction, but it just didn't happen. However, both of them, they lacked education, either because of their living situation with their mom or whatever other outside causes was it. And they were unable to retain those high-paying jobs to help boost them up in life. I believe these situations Tammy and her family were put through would be completely different if they began at a different social class. Tammy's sons could have potentially had a better opportunity to continue on with their education and get those higher-paying jobs if even if they had a little extra income from the lower class or even the working class to start pushing themselves in those right directions. So how has social class affected my life? Well, when I was younger, I grew up and I would say the working class. However, my dad loves to joke that we grew up poor and in the lower class. We lived in a small 3-bedroom house on 11th Street, which was a busier road. Both of my parents had jobs. Each of them had their own car. We constantly had power in the house. We always had dinner on the table. We had television, and we had a house phone, and once internet really became a thing, we had dial-up internet. My parents really made sure that we had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. I did not grow up with hundreds of toys and a million Christmas presents from Santa underneath a Christmas tree. Growing up, my mom would constantly remind me how expensive things were and how you needed to earn those things and not just ask and receive. For birthdays and Christmases, I felt as if I barely saw my parents because they were both working extra hours and going into overtime to help get my brother and I presents for Christmas or birthdays, whatever the case may have been. I remember always wearing clothes from Goodwill and even Walmart to school. And at times when I was younger, I would feel self-conscious as this 7-year-old because I would see all these other kids going to school, like their back to school or their Christmas clothes, and flaunting them because they're name brand clothing items. Continuing through life and getting older, my parents did manage to get better jobs. We upgraded houses, we upgraded devices, we got better appliances. Later on, they upgraded social classes. Now that I'm older, I don't feel bad for growing up a little less wealthy than my peers and my friends. I feel like I learned so much from my parents, just seeing them maneuver and dance their way through whatever life wanted to throw at them with their social class. I feel as if I have a better grasp on the true value of money because of them, and I have a better understanding on how to save money to make it last a while. And I just feel like overall I have a lot better outlook on life because of them and how I want to go about with my future with moving up social classes and living life that way. Hearing the stories about how my parents moved to America with absolutely nothing to having 2 kids and working and then making their way into life with what they have and where they can live comfortably and not have to stretch paycheck to the end of the week. It's absolutely inspiring with the hard work and dedication that they put in, and it just makes me feel that literally anything is achievable, and I really appreciate that.